Hello, I'm Samiksha Gaikwad from TYBSc Computer Science from Sarhad College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Pune. So in this session, we are going to discuss some MCQs related to operating system. So without any further delay, let's get started. First MCQ, what is an operating system? And the options are interface between the hardware and the application programs, collection of programs that manages hardware resources, system service provider to the application programs, and all of the mentioned. So the correct option is option D, that is all of the mentioned. Next MCQ, what is the main function of the command interpreter? And the options are to provide the interface between the API and application program, to handle the files in the operating system, to get and execute the next user specified command, and none of the mention. So the correct option is option C, that is to get and execute the next user specified command. Next MCQ, to access the services of the operating system, the interface is provided by the, and the options are library, system calls, assembly instructions, and API. So the correct option is option B, that is system calls. Next MCQ, CPU scheduling is the basis of, and the options are multi-programming operating system, larger memory sized system, multiprocessor system, and none of the mention. So the correct option is option A, that is multi-programming operating system. Next MCQ, what does OS X has? And the options are option A, monolithic kernel with modules, option B, microkernel, option C, monolithic kernel, and option D, hybrid kernel. So the correct option is option D, that is hybrid kernel. Next MCQ, in operating system, each process has its own, and the options are option A, open files, option B, pending alarms, signals and signal handlers, option C, address space and global variables, option D, all of the mention. So the correct option is option D, that is all of the mention. Next MCQ, cascading termination refers to the termination of all child processes if the parent process terminates, and the options are normally or abnormally, option B abnormally, option C normally, and option D none of the mention. So the correct option is option A, that is normally and abnormally. Next MCQ, transient operating system code is a code that, and the options are option A, stays in the memory always, option B, never enters the memory space, option C, comes and goes as needed, and the option D, is not easily accessible. And the correct option is option C, that is comes and goes as needed. Next MCQ, the portion of the process scheduler in the operating system that dispatch processes is concerned with, and the options are assigning ready processes to waiting queue, assigning running processes to block queue, assigning ready processes to CPU, and all of the mentioned. So the correct option is option C, that is assigning ready processes to CPU. Next MCQ, the FCFS algorithm is particularly troublesome for dash, and the options are operating system, multiprocessor systems, time sharing systems, and multi-programming systems. So the correct option is option C, that is time sharing systems. Next MCQ, a deadlock avoidance algorithm dynamically examines the dash to ensure that a circular wait condition can never exist, and the options are operating system, resources, system storage state, and resources allocation state. So the correct option is option D, that is resource allocation state. Next MCQ, swapping dash be done when a process has pending input output or has to execute input output operations only into the operation system buffers, and the options are must never, maybe, can, and must. And the correct option is option A, that is must never. Next MCQ. The main memory accommodate dash and the options are CPU, user processes, operating system, and all of the mention. So the correct option is option C, that is operating system. Next MCQ. The operating system and the other processes are protected from being modified by an already running processes because, and the options are every address generated by the CPU is being checked against the relocation and limit registers. Option B, they have a protection algorithm. Option C, they are in different memory spaces. And option D, they are in different logical addresses. And the correct option is option A, that is every address generated by the CPU is being checked against the relocation and limit registers. Next MCQ. The operating system maintains a dash table that keeps track how many frames have been allocated, how many are there, and how many are available. And the options are memory, mapping, pages, and frames. So the correct option is option D, that is frame. Next MCQ. The dash presents a uniform device access interface to the I/O subsystem, much as system calls provide a standard interface between the application and the operating system. And the options are device drivers, input-output systems, devices, and buses. So the correct option is option A, that is device drivers. Next MCQ. In real-time operating system dash and the options are process scheduling can be done only once, all processes have the same priority, kernel is not required, and a task must be serviced by its deadline period. So the correct option is option D, that is a task must be serviced by its deadline period. Next MCQ. Hard real-time operating system has dash jitter than a soft real-time operating systems, and the options are option A equal, option B more, option C less, and option D none of the mention. So the correct option is option C, that is less. Next MCQ. For real-time operating systems, interrupt latency should be dash and the options are 0, minimal, maximum, dependent on the scheduling. So the correct option is option B, that is minimal. Next and last MCQ. The priority of a process will dash if the scheduler assigns it a static priority, and the options are depends on the operating system, change, remain unchanged, and none of the mention. So the correct option is option C, that is remain unchanged.